about the current commercial real estate market here in Southern California, as we take a no BS look at both sides of the issues driving this market today to find the best solutions going forward. With our man right in the middle, it's Barry Saywitz. Hey, Barry.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to all of our viewers and our listeners out there. Welcome back. If it's Tuesday, which last I checked it is, we are talking real estate. I'm Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company and managing partner of Saywitz Properties. And I say it all the time, I'm excited about today's show, but today I'm actually very excited about the show for many reasons. There's a lot of things going on in the world, good and bad. We got a lot to talk about, but today is a milestone for us. Today is our 100th show. And so I never thought that we would get here. I didn't think we'd make it past 2 or 3, to be honest. We are going to have a big cast party, a cast of 3, after the show, free bagels and cream cheese for everybody. But it is a milestone for us, and we have lots to talk about. I also want to do a shout out because it is Halloween. And so for all of those trick-or-treaters, for all of those adult kids that have decided to dress up, especially in my office, I hope you enjoy your day and get a chance to play kitty for a while and don't eat too many sweets and don't stay up too late. With all of that said, I want to welcome our guest, Reuben Gulledge, who is the sales manager at Compass Real Estate, which is a very large residential real estate company here in Orange County and in Newport Beach in particular. And Reuben has multiple roles because he is also the president of the Newport Beach Association of Realtors, which is the governing and administrative body that oversees all of the residential real estate brokers and some commercial as well in the not only Newport Beach but sort of in the coastal Orange County area. So Reuben, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Barry. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. We have lots going on in the world. We're going to stay away from the political side as much as we can, but there are obviously 2 wars, Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Hamas. We have inflation. We have the stock market took a tank last week of more than 1,000 points and then was up more than 500 yesterday. It's all over the board. The Fed is meeting today and tomorrow, and we'll see what comes from that. In addition to that, we have a real estate market that is ever-changing and is a function of all these other things going on in the market. And so I want to start with, let's just, I guess, talk about your background and how you got into real estate and also your law background. You're a long time, is it lifelong resident of Orange County or Southern California, I guess?
So born in Utah, but moved here when I was a few months old, with my family. Grew up in Newport Beach and have pretty much been here ever since.
Yeah, lucky you. Yeah. And so familiar with the lay of the land, go to law school at Whittier, and then did you decide to, at what point did you decide that law is not my thing, or I'm going to combine the law and the real estate?
So it actually happened in reverse. About 23 years ago, I was living at home in college. My mom was a top real estate agent in Newport Beach my whole life. Was looking for a summer job. A friend of mine had a company. I said, Mom, I'm going to work for my friend. And she said, nope, I am so busy. If you're working for anyone, you're working with me. So I started selling real estate, got my license, took to it, dropped all my classes in college, dropped out of college, and then went back to finish my undergrad 4 years later. After selling real estate for about 11 years, realized I love real estate. I love the contracts, legal end. I love helping agents, but I didn't necessarily care for being a salesman. So I went to law school and became a lawyer after 15 years of being a full-time realtor.
So it took you 15 years to figure out you didn't like to be a salesman.
Yeah.
The money was good,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the people are good most of the time. But
Yeah.
So then let's fast forward. So then you get involved with Certere Properties, which is another big real estate company in Newport Beach, and in an administrative capacity on the back end.
Yeah, so my last few years selling real estate full-time, my license was with Certere Properties, so I was with them. So after graduating law school, the founders of Certere reached out to me. They needed help at the management level, and they offered me a management position.
Oh, great. And so then now your most recent change, you've moved over to Compass, which is another large real estate company.
Correct.
And similar capacity in terms of administrative side of things and legal fun stuff, dealing with contracts and disputes and all that good stuff.
Correct.
So and at what point did you get involved with the Board of Realtors?
Actually, back about 2006, 2007, I was involved with some of the committees there, the Government Affairs Committee, Grievance Committee, then became a director of the board and a treasurer for the board in 2008. and as well as a director for the California Association of Realtors.
So you got a long history with that side of things, and we are members, our company, of the Newport Beach Association of Realtors, and have been for many years. So I've seen a lot of changes with the Board of Realtors, not only in personnel, but in terms of growth and in terms of technology, and also just how they're dealing with the agents, as opposed to a bunch of people running around with chickens with their heads cut off, right? And so I guess let's start with the Board of Realtors, and then I want to come back to the real estate market and get your thoughts there. But in terms of the Board of Realtors, really the role, as I understand it, you tell me if I'm wrong, is really it's an administrative function in addition to providing access to contracts and best practices and signs and data and being able to access all of what's available on the multiple listing. And when it started, Newport Beach Association of Realtors really was its own standalone. Like, hey, I want my own Board of Realtors. I really don't want to talk to the other Board of Realtors, and I want to make you join mine. And then now, from a technology standpoint, really, like, it's like the whole state is linked up, right, with modern technology.
That's correct. So quick disclaimer, I don't speak on behalf of the board in my capacity here today. It's my opinions and talk is me as an individual. I don't want to get the board in trouble if and when I say something stupid.
A true lawyer talk.
Yeah, I have to. But yeah, one of the core functions of the board is providing education and tools for the membership, the agents and affiliate services. The local boards of realtors, whether it's the Newport Beach Association of Realtors, Laguna Board of Realtors, are members of CAR, the California Association of Realtors, which is in turn a member of the National Association of Realtors. So through membership dues at the local board, you also get MLS access. That's one of the big functions.
Yeah, no, I remember back in the day, I used to ask the board, can I get a list of all the members? So if I wanted to call somebody, and then they gave me this typed up, printed out, book, if you will. And then I said, you guys got anything on what's called a computer? And they said, no. And today you now have infinite access to contracts and information everywhere. And so now it gives the individual broker, I think, access to a lot of the same information that some of the bigger brokerage firms have access to, which gives them a little better footing on from a playing field. And then, we tell on our end, on the commercial side, it's not the information, it's what you do with it and how you use it that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
And so, but the platform for the board also through the California Association of Realtors and the National Association is also I guess a sounding board and also a voice for the real estate industry in terms of state mandates and laws and things like that as well.
Yeah, that's correct. Educating the members, advocating for private property rights, lobbying, to certain officials, to try to serve the best interests of the membership.
Yeah, and then through that you have access to standardized forms and contracts and things like that.
Correct. The California Association of Realtors licenses those forms, and you have access, through your membership at CAR.
Right. Sure. And any sense how big the Newport Association is in terms of members today?
We have about 2,400 members.
Gotcha. And then there's also an Orange County Board of Realtors.
Correct. You have the Newport Beach Association, the Laguna Board of Realtors, and the Orange County Realtors. OCAR is the sort of the acronym.
Right.
Yeah.
I always got confused because we had to pay twice. We were part of both. And so if I'm a residential real estate broker, or even if I'm a commercial and I want to join, I can join the board. I pay my dues. I get access to the system. And then now I'm off and running. And so you, in your role at Certera, and now in your new role at Compass, you're overseeing, I guess, is the best babysitting and overseeing and managing and any term you want to throw in there. This whole slew of agents that are out there running around trying to make deals.
Right.
And so from a managerial standpoint, let's rewind a little bit into COVID. Difficult to show properties, all kinds of restrictions and things, protocols, if you will. And then now we come out of COVID, the market gets super hot, and then we rewind, 6-9 months ago, and then all of a sudden falls off a cliff, for lack of a better word. I mean, it didn't do it in a day, but here we are. I think we're still falling.
Yep. It felt like a day because the frantic pace of the sales and the price run up through COVID shortly afterwards, caused a lot of fatigue, because deals were happening so fast, multiple offers, waiving contingencies, and then it felt like the market suddenly stopped And then we go right into the fear of, fewer transactions, rising interest rates. So it was kind of a double whammy psychologically, for people in the industry.
Yeah, and what we've seen, at least on the commercial side, while it hasn't been as dramatic or as fast, you have a disconnect between buyer and seller, and you have seller trying to hold on to yesterday's dollar and yesterday's speed of transaction, and how come I don't have 10 offers, and why isn't somebody offering me more than what I'm asking? And to me, those days are gone, at least for a while, and now you're back to sort of a normalized market, and people don't realize that it's supposed to take 60 to 90 days to sell your home. You're supposed to ask a certain price and then take a little bit less, and there's some haggle that goes on, and that didn't happen for a long time.
Yep, you're exactly right. That buyers and sellers are more on even footing these days. I wouldn't say it's normal in the sense of the underlying factors, but there are sellers holding on to, prices that are unrealistic. They're projecting the growth of what the prices were 2 years ago and kind of extrapolating to what they think their property is worth. And the pricing of the properties has become, I think, just essential to get the property to sell. If you price it well, there are buyers out there, there is activity. If you overprice it, the buyers are very hesitant to even look at the property. So I think with the information out there, the buyers are very price conscious right now. And we're seeing if you don't price it well to begin with, you're going to sit on the market. After you reduce the price, you sort of have a stigma to you of why didn't this sell? And you've lost that momentum.
Well, and the guy who did it 6 months ago wound up chasing interest rates as they continued to go up, and as the prices continued to soften, you missed the peak of the market because you were holding on to yesterday's dollar.
Yep, not just the peak of the market, but the fury of multiple buyers willing to pay over asking, waive contingencies, and kind of do whatever they had to do to close. The buyers, I think, are more sensitive to the pricing and more willing to renegotiate during the escrow.
Well, that was my next question, because we've seen it on the commercial side where you have what I call the retrade, right? Which is I tie up the property, I come back in the middle of the deal after we've got the escrow open and the papers signed, and then I go, and I'm not going to do that, or I need this, or I need that, or I need some sort of pound of flesh so that I can feel good. And I can blame it on the economy, and I can blame it on, they raised interest rates again, and maybe true, but you see a lot of that where you weren't seeing that before, because if you had backup buyers, you'd say, look, if you're not going to perform, get out of the way. I got another guy standing here. And now there's no guy standing there.
Yep. Now, in some price points, there are other buyers standing there, but I don't know how intentionally buyers go into the deal thinking I'm going to renegotiate, but buyers are expecting, if I'm paying top dollar right now, the property needs to be in top condition. And then they do their inspections, they get the disclosures from the seller, and they realize it's not in the best condition. My offer was based on the presumption that it was. And so now, in order for me to move forward, I'm going to need either a credit from the seller or a price reduction.
Right. And or what we hope not to hear is pound of flesh from the broker, right? And so,
yeah.
But the and we've talked. I mean, there are companies out there that will help sellers fix up their home before they're going to sell it. Or as the agent, you would say, hey, look, this carpet is black and dirty. Maybe you want to just get some inexpensive carpet and replace it. Or maybe you want to paint these walls because they got marks on them. And you don't need to remodel your whole house. But there's certain simple things that if you're getting ready to sell, maybe you want to do that. And then there's other people that think, I'm just not going to do it. Here you go. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's a case-by-case basis, but do you find that the seller's a little more conscious now, like I'm willing to do some things to try and make sure that actually this process goes smoothly and I don't get stuck sitting with the house?
Yeah, absolutely. First impressions make a big difference. So not only the psychology of the buyer going in feeling like they're buying something that looks good, is move-in ready, but that they're not starting to spend dollars in their mind of having to get it up to speed of repairs, even cosmetic stuff. So yeah, I think sellers are very conscious of that.
Yeah, I always found when I go to buy properties and the landscaping looks like just terrible and burnt out, like, hey, you could have spent a few $100s and put some nice flowers in the front just to impress me as the buyer when I walked up. And so my first impression was, there's some nice flowers. Yeah. And people don't do it.
Interestingly, one of the best return on investment is a garage door.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seemed to me like any little thing that you could do when someone drives past the house would make some sense.
Yeah.
And so, are you seeing in today's market where, I guess on the front end, on the sales pitch, it's difficult to me, I would think, for the agent because I'm competing for the business. So while the seller has a number in his mind, I don't want to be the guy or the gal who is the bearer of bad news. Like your house was worth X last month, and I don't think it's going to sell at X. And I'm just going to be real with you, and I'm going to tell you I don't think we're going to get that number. You're telling the person, the seller, not what they want to hear, versus somebody else tells them, says, yeah, I think we can get it. We listed it, doesn't sell, and in 30 or 45 days you go, we don't have any offers. We should think about dropping the price, but at least I've got the listing.
Yep. No, that's a great point. And from what I've seen, is the best agents don't think of themselves as just salespeople, but as advocates. And they will tell the client, my job is not to tell you what you want to hear. It's to tell you what you need to hear. And look, we can try for a higher price. The comps may not substantiate it. I don't recommend it, but I believe in what I do. I can try to get you the best price. We'll market it aggressively. But seller, you have to understand that that's not the market value right now.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing as an agent. We go through this in our office as well, but it's a tough thing as an agent to tell the seller that when you're in a competition, because someone else might tell you, I'll get it for you. It's no problem. I'm going to get it for you. I'm not going to, I'm not even going to flinch. Yep. And then I'll just come back later and tell you, gee, it wasn't my fault. It was the market. It was the Fed. It was the government. Whatever the case is, it's not my fault.
Right.
And so it is very difficult. We run across that on the commercial side where people come in and go, I'll get you 6 months of free rent. And I'll be like, you're not going to get 1 month of free rent with the sub-market that you're in. That might be the case in a different sub-market, but don't let anybody kid you. And if they are, they're just making stuff up. But it's, by the time you get there, it's too late.
Yep, that's what we call agents buying the listing.
Yes.
They'll tell the seller whatever they want to hear.
Yes.
And agents, especially in this market, need to be very careful about that because they're going to spend a lot on marketing, a lot of time. Right. And if the property doesn't sell by the expiration of the listing, the seller may feel like that broker just told me what they wanted me to hear. They didn't understand what the market would bear. And then they move on to the second agent who did tell them the truth. Right.
And I'm not sure if there's an official term for that, but in my world, it's the listing broker pecking off unsaleable listings or listings that just didn't sell. So something that sat on the market for 2 or 3 months. Now you have other agents whispering in the seller's ear saying, listen, your guy's not doing their job, right? I mean, I don't know what they told you, but that it's not going to sell at that price. Do you have any offers? No, we don't. Right. That's because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Why don't you just get rid of that person or that company and then give me a shot?
Yeah. Now, agents need to be very careful about doing that because that likely constitutes interfering with someone else's contract. So, I talk with my agents about that, about what they can and can't say. They can tell the seller, this is what I do to market the property. If the listing expires, this is how I will market it, but they need to be very careful not to talk about what the current agent is or isn't doing, and definitely do not counsel them on how to get them to cancel the contract.
Yeah. But in reality, I mean, these are conversations that just didn't happen for years, right? Not since the recession, as far as I'm concerned, because you had a market that was chugging along, that was continuing to move, and people got a listing and it sold. And so now for both seller and agent, you're doing more work, you have more stress, you're spending more time and money, and you got to work for it. And you went from, I don't want to say no work because I don't want to belittle the business, because that's certainly not the case. I did very little work, relatively speaking, to, now I've got to do a lot of work, spend more money, and I've got to do some hand-holding that I never had to do before, right? So if the agent's not good at that, it's a problem.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say it's more work now, because during the run-up, agents did a lot of work, whether they were writing, offers on 12 different properties, hopefully not at the same time as a buyer's agent, but having to work with buyers longer. And then the listing agent, they had to field 12, 15 offers. In some areas, we saw 30 offers. Analyze all of those, present them to the seller. It was a lot of work to go through that. It was more likely the property would sell, and you didn't have the same, back and forth during escrow, let's say, with the contingencies or repairs. But I think now it's agents getting back to what we used to do 10, 20 years ago of, facilitating the transaction.
And there's a process.
On equal footing.
Right,
Yes.
and you have a process, you can quantify the process, and then everybody's hopefully on board with what that process is, as opposed to just Wild West.
Right. And the agent value to the client, I think, really needs to be articulated for agents right now, to clients wondering, why am I hiring an agent? why am I paying the commission that I am? Because a lot of the top agents are absolutely worth it. But unfortunately, there's a lot of agents in the industry that probably, are not worth what they're being paid.
Yeah, and that was another thing I was going to ask you. So there's quite a large number of people in the industry, many of whom work at it full time. It is their profession, it is their career. And then you'll have what I call the weekend warrior, of people that got into it, and I make 1 or 2 deals a year, and it's enough to supplement or keep me from having to go get another full-time job. Do you find that in this market there's fallout, not only with your own firm, but just in the industry as a whole, of people go, if my entire year was predicated on me making 1 or 2 deals, and I've now gone 6 or 9 months and I have 0 deals, that is 0, and I can't eat.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of agents feel like the industry is overdue for a purge of some of these agents. Now, there are plenty of people out there with a real estate license that they don't need to work, so they can still do the deals, one-off as a weekend warrior. Frankly, those types of agents keep me up at night because they're not on top of the current laws, the current forms, and they don't always reach out to help. One of the big paradoxes I see in California real estate is that brokerages have a legal duty to supervise their agents, but agents are independent contractors who the broker can't make come to training or meetings.
Right.
So it's an interesting dynamic.
And you have A-type people who are salespeople who are out hustling to make a living, and they don't always want to come in and take a class, right?
Correct.
And I found, too, that those people that are what we'll call the weekend warrior also are out slinging stuff. And when they do get that 1 or 2 deals, they have to do whatever it takes within reason to make the deal, because it's their whole year or half a year or whatever the case may be, as opposed to the agent who's doing it every day, who's building a pipeline, who has a team of people and is in it for the long haul.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's always a challenge. And then it's also a challenge for those that are in it every day to field comments and feedback from those that are swoop in and swoop out. So in terms of the market as a whole, I'm going to ask the question. I think I know the answer, but transaction volume down?
Way down.
Way down. And number of offers on a property back to, I have 1 offer, maybe I have 2 offers, not 10, 20, 30 offers.
Definitely not 10, 20, 30, but in some of the markets, if it's priced well, you do see multiple offers still.
And so then my question is, and we've talked about this on other shows, but let's break the market down, because I look at it as you have what I'm going to call entry-level pricing, and entry-level pricing in Newport Beach might be a shocker for a lot of people out there, but you have entry-level homes, whatever that price is, in any sub-market, and then you have the mid-priced homes, and then you have the high-end homes. And again, in Newport Beach, the high-end homes are very high-end, but let's talk entry-level, right? Still seeing activity on the entry-level of people who say, look, my rent got raised, I've been looking for a while, I'm able still to get a high loan to value because I may be a first-time home buyer, and as much as I might be paying a high interest rate, the pitch I hear from people all the time is, hey, Barry, you can buy this property, and then when rates go down, you can just refinance, right? That's the logic for buying the property.
Yeah, it's you marry your house, you date your rate.
Yeah, so, I mean, that works well in residential when there might be a loan with no prepayment penalty, and you could do that as soon as the rates dip for fairly inexpensive cost. On the commercial side of things, whether it's apartments or office buildings or other things, you have a prepayment penalty. You are locked in, and you may have defeasance or other penalties that come into it, and makes it virtually impossible to do that. But I agree with the logic to some degree, and if you buy the spin that eventually rates will come down and you really love the house and you'd prefer to own that one versus renting or wherever else you're at, then it makes sense, which I think still fuels some volume of transaction in those priced homes, right? And then in what I'm going to call the entry level. But the market that I think has suffered the most, I'm curious your thoughts, is this middle tier, because the middle tier is made up into a large degree of the people in the entry level that wanted to trade up and sell their house for a bunch more than what they bought it for, and then use that equity to go buy something else, and that seems to have gotten whacked pretty good.
Yeah, that area as well as the others, find that sellers are handcuffed with low rates, because they either bought or refinanced in the last few years at these ridiculously low 2-3% rates. They would like to move up or buy something else, in that price range, but they're going to pay, 2-3 times amount on the monthly payment, and that, keeps them from becoming buyers.
So does that then hurt the inventory in the marketplace? Because those people don't put on the
Yep.
market. Many of them just go, you know what, I'm just going to wait. I'm fine. I don't have to move. And some of them come back and go, well, I'll just remodel the living room or the bathroom and I'll do that, and I'm good for a while.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, the number one reason we see inventory as low as it is.
Yeah. And then on the high-end homes, again, curious your thoughts, but it seems to me like those people are less impacted by interest rate fluctuations, more impacted by just, is this a good value, and do I want it? And on a high-end home, it becomes very emotional. If I love the house and I found it, maybe I just pay whatever it takes because it's a gem and I'll never find it again, or the location or what have you. So the pricing for those homes seems to not have as solid of a formula. It's more what somebody's willing to buy or somebody thinks it's worth.
Yeah, it almost becomes a little more like a piece of art,
Yeah.
that emotional purchase. And of course, you can justify the price based on comps, based on replacement value and all of that. But the clients in that higher echelon, they don't have the same, I guess, sensitivity to the interest rates.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, and so are we still seeing a lot of foreign money come into, especially Newport Beach and the coastal areas, or has that slowed down
Not
well?
as much as a few years ago, but we do. I think across really all price points, it's been the case, since I've been in the business 23 years, is that the vast majority of people buying in Orange County already live in Orange County.
That was my next question is,
Yep.
do you see this exodus?
Nope.
And then also, do you see people coming to Orange County either from a retirement standpoint or buying a second home, or just saying, hey, this is a good investment because I think the real estate's going to go up long term?
Yeah, we still do see that, but again, the vast majority of people buying, selling in Orange County are just
They're
moving
here.
around in Orange County,
Yeah.
even within the same neighborhood.
So we've only got a couple of minutes left, but I could go with this all day. But in terms of your personal perspective, in terms of where the market goes, let's just say over the next 6 months, because we're now in the fourth quarter. We all know in the holidays and in January when the weather's not so great here, they're slower months typically. What's the prognosis, and then what are you hearing from your office in terms of what do I do? What's the game plan?
So as far as just supply demand, I think inventory will go down a little bit through the holidays of sellers that don't have to sell. They want to enjoy the holidays, so they pull it off. There's still buyers out there. I don't think it's going to be as pronounced as we typically see in cycles, because right now the transactions are very largely people that have to buy or sell, for whatever lifestyle reason, and that's always going to be the case. So I think it's going to be, relatively flat. It'll probably come down a little bit. In talking with agents, a lot of them are getting back to basics and business planning and saying, I'm going to plan, my strategy, my goals, for 6 months out, because I'm in this for the long haul anyway. So they're not, white knuckling, so to speak, through the holidays. They understand, that there's going to be, the typical slowdown, but they still have to do, what they've been doing to be successful, for decades.
It seems like in a slow market, I would want to step up the marketing. And then there's that sort of push-pull with, if I'm struggling financially because I'm making less money than I was before, I've got to go spend more money when I'm actually hurting. And you got to decide.
Yep. Several top agents I talked to have ramped up their marketing efforts, capitalizing on the fact that many agents either can't or won't market like they, had been.
Right.
And some top agents that have been doing this for decades have said they built their business in down markets because they had to have solid fundamentals, good habits, and provide that value to the clients that built their business. And so when the market then picks back up again, they're in the perfect position to capitalize.
Yeah, I agree. And then are you seeing some of the transactions fall out or get sideways as a result of appraisals? Have we hit that point where the appraisals, the property's not appraising, or not yet?
No, not because of appraisals. I think we're seeing about the same rate of cancellations. What's interesting is there's more of a trend of cancellations right at the beginning of escrow, of buyers not putting their money in because they're not really sure about it. So when they're canceling sooner than they had been, but we're not seeing a huge spike in cancellation rates.
Interesting. And so in terms of the prognosis for, I expect interest rates certainly over the next 6 months to do nothing but either stay where they're at or go up some more.
I agree.
And so whatever impact that had on the market, I think it's had it, and it will continue to stay in there, and the person who felt like we were going to go back to 4% in 3 or 4 months, good luck. I hope, right? I'll keep my fingers crossed, but I don't see it happening. So now I think as a buyer, you've also got to get back to fundamentals, and you're either a buyer, and so get in and look around and shop around and get educated, or you can just sit back and go focus on your golf game or something else and come back another day.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right. When the interest rates started to run up, a lot of people just froze and said, I'm going to wait to see what happens. Maybe they come back down. But now that they've been at this level for a pretty sustained period of time, doesn't look like they're coming down anytime soon, that the buyers and the sellers, they can get their head around it and say, okay, this is what it is. Now let me move forward accordingly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, it's an ongoing thing, and then all of these other factors that are going on in the world, while they don't 100% impact what's going on with real estate markets here in Orange County, they do impact people's thought process, and I think dinner table talk and just perception of where things are at, and that gets back to what I'm doing with the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of just your business and with Compass in general, is the company looking to continue to expand, or is it looking to really make the most of the agents that they have and make sure that they're as good as they can be, especially with this tumultuous market?
Now, of course, I have to give the legal disclaimer again. I can't speak on behalf of Compass, as far as strategy goals, what they're doing. But I think, like everybody, you're retooling your value proposition. You're looking to get better where you can, and just sort of make sure that you're delivering the best value to your clients that you can. For me, sales manager, I feel like my clients are my agents.
Yeah.
So to make sure that they're getting the support they need, they have the tools they need to be successful.
Got it. And in terms of how people can find out more about Compass, what's the website that they could go to if they want to check it out? Just
Compass.com.
easy. Yep. COMPASS, right?
Yes.
And so in terms of the market in general, I think the summary, from what I'm hearing, is I think we can expect more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
And as a seller, the advice would be pick a plan, go with it, get committed to it, and make sure you are not up in the clouds and you're in reality. Mm-hmm. And I think the same applies to the buyer as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. Find an agent that is experienced, that knows what they're doing. That isn't necessarily the cheapest. Someone recently said that a real estate agent is like wine. You can go with the cheaper version, but don't complain about the headache tomorrow.
Yeah. And I mean, we tell people in our office, look, it's about value add, right? Mm-hmm. And so don't just hire somebody because it's an agent, because it's part of the process. Don't hire the person that promises you the sky or dresses the best. Mm-hmm. Ask smart questions and see if you get good answers.
Well, and let me put it in these terms also, because my agents and we talk about this, is these properties are multi-million-dollar assets that you're trading. If you found yourself in a litigation over a $2 million asset, whether you had to sue to protect it or defend it, you're not going to go to the attorney in the strip mall that does bail bonds because he's the cheapest. You're going to hire the best attorney you possibly can for this $2 million asset. So why is it any different with real estate? When it comes to an asset of that size, why are you looking to go with the cheaper version and not the best possible version you can? Because we know that top professionals will save you money overall. And, but the mindset is when it's my home, and I know best.
You're speaking language we deal with every day on our end on the commercial side. And so, I tell people in the boardroom all the time, it's no different than your agents tell them in the living room or the dining room, which is, look, if there's somebody else that you think is going to add better value or do a better job, you should just hire them. But don't hire them because they got a nicer tie than me or because they promised you the moon and it's not reality. Mm-hmm. And so I think, look, the tone of the day and the takeaway from today's show is, if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, you need to get educated. You need to make smart decisions. You need to hire professional help and try and hire the best one. And in a perfect world, you hire Compass. You hire the Saywitz company. You hire somebody who's going to execute the transaction and add some value at the end of the day. And in terms of the market, no one knows what the future holds. We'll wait and see. But I think, Reuben, I appreciate the thoughts and the input, and I don't disagree with anything that you've said. And we'll all keep our fingers crossed that we get on an upward track and keep things moving forward.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, so for everyone here at OC Talk Radio, again, our 100th show, I think you get a free cup of coffee and donut or something that they pass out, right? Maybe I got to chip in for that. But I do want to thank Paul and Sophia and the whole staff here at OC Talk Radio for making it happen. Hopefully we get another 100 shows under our belt, and we'll be back next week regardless. So if it's Tuesday, keep tuning in. I'm Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company, and I want to thank everybody, all of our viewers and our listeners out there. We're talking real estate. We'll see you next week on Let's Talk.
Well, there you have it. You've been listening to Let's Talk Real Estate, your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current state of the real commercial real estate market right here in Southern California. On Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studio here at the University of California Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.